Good day, Berkeleyans. We'll continue our discussion of principles of arts as applied in the different art pieces of selected cultural communities. We already discussed the first few parts of this lesson in our synchronous class. We'll just continue and of course review the first parts. So let's start with the objectives of this lesson is to first identify the different principles of art in selected works. Second, apply the different principles of art in your own work. And third, to adopt an indigenous cultural motif and turns it into a contemporary design. Principles of art arrange the elements of art into a composition. As what I've said, if the elements of art are like the ingredients of the recipe, principles of art are the directions and instructions you need for the ingredients to work together in order to form a recipe. So, principles of art are the things that you need for you to be able to arrange the elements of art into a composition and an artwork. You may have all the ingredients ready, but that doesn't mean you know what to do with them. And again, that's where the principles of art comes in. Composition is where everything is placed in an artwork and in what manner. So we will be dealing with 5 principles of arts: emphasis, contrast, repetition, harmony, and movement. Let's start again with emphasis. Emphasis is a created center of interest and it's used to attract the viewer's attention to a particular subject or object. With this, as you can see in the picture again, we have tomatoes in the picture, but there is a distinct green tomato here in this artwork. Because in emphasis, this is what we focus on in an artwork. Usually, it's the largest or most detailed area of the artwork. Emphasis can be defined again as a special attention or importance given to one part or element in a work of art. Emphasis can be achieved in several ways. First is color. So artists use color in a strategic way to create emphasis. If you plan to encourage a viewer's eye to progress slowly from one area of the work to another, you may use soft, subtle colors that change gradually. In other cases, you may use bright, bold colors to make particular aspects easy to recognize. Second is the size or proportion. Many people accept the standard proportions of people and objects based on their experience and culture. Some artists create emphasis by using disproportionate imagery that makes the viewer think about its purpose. For example, an artist may create a sculpture or an artwork of a person with a significantly large head to make a statement about the capabilities of the human mind. Next, we can also use shape, values in an artwork to create emphasis. In visual art or arts in particular, value refers again to the lightness or darkness of each color within a piece. Value is essentially how much shade or shadow various colors receive at different spots within the overall composition. Artists and people can use contrast within their values to help them create emphasis. For example, in this illustration, we can see various shades of circles, but there is also a distinct shape there which is your square, and at the same time, the shade of it is darker than the rest of the shapes in this illustration. We can also actually use lines, textures, and other elements of art to create emphasis. Here are some artworks of Filipino artists which showcases emphasis in their artwork. First is Emmanuel Garibay's The Righteous Man. So you can see, we notice here the man who is wearing a yellow shirt, in which he is the point of emphasis. We also have here Fernando Amorsolo's The Palay Maiden. The girl here is the largest and distinct piece in this artwork, which is actually the point of emphasis. In 3 minutes, please do an illustration using lines, shapes, and colors. For the others, we already did this in our SIG class. You may skip or pause the video if you need more time to do this illustration. Let's go to the next principle of art, which is movement. Movement refers to the path the viewer eye takes through the work of art, often to areas of focus or focal areas. It can be directed along lines, edges, shape, and color within the artwork. Movement is the motion or mode of motion in an artwork. As you can see in this example, the waves, children, shows to what direction does this wave takes the viewer's eye in the artwork. We also have here several examples. Movement is actually the principle of art that artists use in making optical illusions. So you can see here, artists use repeated motions of subject to create the illusion of movement. We already did an activity with regards to your movement, but we have here several examples of movement in illustrations. Mostly, we use curved lines to create illusion of movement in our artwork. Spiral, curvy, etc. For those who weren't able to do movement activity in their notebook, please do so. Create a simple illustration that emphasize on movement. Use different elements of art, particularly shape, lines, and colors, to create an illusion of movement. Again, you may pause this video for you to be able to do the activity. Pause this video if you need more time to do this activity. Next is your repetition. Probably this is one of the easiest principles of art that you can do with your artwork. Repetition refers to the repeated elements of art to create a pattern. It refers to one or two shapes or more shape that is repetitively used in the artwork to create a visual echo or accent certain aspects of the work. It is repeated use of an element or group of elements in a recurring, predictable arrangement, which is what we call sequence. The cultural communities in the Philippines, they actually have patterns in their textiles. For the eagle-going Kalinga textile, you can see here the repetition of the stars. because for tribes in Ifugao and Kalinga, the Binituan or stars represents the children of the sun and moon. Women believed that they would not have a hard time bearing a child when such pattern is etched on their belts. In some cases, Binituan is also a sign of abundance. We also have here the Ilocos Abra Binakul pattern. As you can see, we can have here the pattern of white darker color of sizes of rectangle squares and or circles, because this pattern is created on a pedal frame by interlocking two shades of thread, which is usually white and a darker color, to create various sizes of rectangles. Binakul is a weaving pattern common to Abra and the Ilocos region in northern Luzon. So, these rectangles are arranged in a repeating pattern across the fabric so that they create an optical illusion of waves, swirls, or circles. You can also have that in simple but meaningful designs. The one that you did in your crayon etching is actually an example of repetition. For your activity 3, please create a pattern using lines, shapes, and colors. Again, you may pause this video if you need time to do your artwork. Please do this in the next empty page of your notebook. Let's go with the next slide. The next element of art is called contrast. Contrast is the amount of difference between the elements of arts. Contrast is simply defined as difference. Different art elements like color, value, size, texture, and so on, so you can intensify the elements used. The value of a color indicates how dark or light it is. One example of contrast is your value contrast. For value contrast, this is the amount of difference between the values. If you were to view a painting on a black and white screen, all light gray and white colors have a low value and the dark gray and white colors have a low value. High value. With that, by placing colors with a high and low value next to each other, you create contrast as shown in the picture here. Let's have the two kinds of value contrast, which is the high contrast. High contrast is there is a large difference between the lightest and darkest areas. Edges, or the tendency is the edges looks harder. When you have a big difference of light and dark values, you have high contrast. For example, black and white are opposite values. So generally, when you see things with solid dark and white, you have high contrast, as shown in the figure here. However, for low contrast, it's exactly the opposite. There is not much difference between the lightest and darkest areas. That tends to make the edges look softer. For example, we might have elements that are similar with each other, probably mid-gray and all dark value or light value. So when your values are close to each other, like this illustration, and similar just like what is shown in this picture again, it has a low contrast because we can only see shades of gray, all shades of gray, light shade of gray, and that is your low contrast. But children, if you can see dark colors, all dark colors in an artwork, that is also your low contrast. But again, all dark shades or all light shades, that's low contrast. But when there is a big difference between the lightest and darkest areas, that's your high contrast. Let's look at the different examples as shown in other artworks. What do you think is the contrast shown here? High or low? This is actually a painting by a Filipino artist, Juan Duna, called Spoliarium, which he painted during the Spanish colonial period in the Philippines. This is an example of high contrast. In here, we see dark black value that is next to bright white shown in the colors of the people in the figure. Let's go to the next one. What is this painting showcases? High or low contrast? This is a painting by Fernando Amorsolo called Planting Rice. In this figure, we see similar value of colors, bright yellow, orange, brown, and green. They are close to each other in value, in shade, so this is an example of low contrast. Okay, let's go to the next element of art, which is your harmony. Harmony refers to how well all the visual elements work together in a work of art. Harmony is a principle of art that refers to how well all the visual elements work together in a work of art, and elements that are in harmony should have some kind of logical progression or relationship. It should just look like it works together. A set of colors as shown in the picture here that relate according to a specific scheme creates harmony. We have here shades of red, pink, orange, etc., which actually they belong to a specific scheme of colors. Likewise, you can also use uniform texture of brush strokes using the surface of a canvas, and it can create harmony. Another way to guarantee harmony is to choose compositional components that are similar in shape and contour. So again, you can play with the different elements of art to create harmony. You just have to work well with these elements of art to make a logical progression or relationship with each other. For example, in this illustration that I have here, they belong to a set of color scheme. But if I put here green or other colors like brown, it doesn't make any sense already, because what I am portraying in this picture are planes. So you need to have a set of colors that work together, that belongs to a specific scheme to create harmony. Harmony is the principle of art that creates your cohesiveness by stressing the similarities of separate but related parts. One should note that harmony uses the elements of art as a vehicle to create a sense of togetherness. Again, a set of colors that relate accordingly to a specific shape creates harmony. It can also be a uniform texture of brush strokes across the surface of a canvas creates harmony. Another way is to choose compositional components that are similar in shape and contour as shown in these illustrations, specifically the middle illustration. A composition that utilizes only curvy shapes will have more harmony than a similar composition that includes both curvy and geometric shapes. The parts of the image here, specifically in the middle, are in harmony, and it's in harmony because every contour is curved. And for the third composition here, we have different colors of flowers, but they are in the same shape and etc. Harmony is a very tricky principle of art because you really need to look into and study and observe the different elements of art put in an artwork for you to be able to see if these elements work together. But anyway, children, try to produce an illustration that puts similar elements together to show harmony. Again, first technique, you may use a set of colors with the same color scheme. For example, these flames that I showed earlier. You can also utilize curvy lines, children, to create harmony, and or you can also put together elements of art with the use of the uniform texture of brush strokes, meaning one direction of strokes in your artwork. You may pause this video to create your artwork, or if you need time in your artwork. Anyway, once you're done, take quiz. Kindly click Take Quiz below for an assessment of your understanding about the principles of art. Make sure, children, that you understood the contents of this video before taking quiz. Reminder, you have to check your Blink accounts on Monday for your asynchronous test. I'll see you in our next sync class. Bye!